This is a Molten Metal moment with the Roadie. From 2016, my chat with Dave Evans, the original vocalist in AC/DC. How did you get together with Angus and Malcolm?
Well, I was with a band in Australia for a while called Velvet Underground, the Australian Velvet Underground, and they were a very, very popular band in Sydney and surrounding areas. We did mostly covers, Free and Rolling Stones and The Who, that kind of thing. And when I was with the band, they used to talk about a former guitarist who only just left before I joined, the little fella they called him, Malcolm Young. But we broke up, and the two of the boys joined Ted Mulry, became the Ted Mulry Gang. I answered an ad in the Sydney Morning Herald for a rock singer. I answered the ad, and it was Malcolm Young. And he told me that he and two other guys, Colin Burgess, drummer from the famous Masters Apprentices, and another guy, Larry Van Creek, bass player, were jamming and putting a band together, and to get my ass, as they say, over to Newtown and have a jam, so which I did. After we jammed, they all said, yep, that's great. We've got a band, which is really cool. About a week later, Angus came along and jammed with us as well, and just a formality really. We all shook hands again, and the band then was 5 members. We recorded first up Tonight's an FU Girl with the backing B-side of Rockin' in the Parlour, but we also recorded some other songs too. Soul Stripper, also Rock and Roll Singer, Little Lover. But those songs were re-recorded by Bon Scott later, so we recorded quite a few, and I wrote a couple of songs with the band as well, which Bon Scott then rewrote the lyrics of those songs and recorded them. Tonight's an FU Girl was released in Australia. It was a huge hit for us. It was named the best Australian group record of the year, but it was also released in New Zealand on a different label. It was released on the Alberts label in Australia and Polydor label in New Zealand. The other songs that I recorded, like Soul Stripper and Rock and Roll Singer, were recorded virtually as you hear them with Bon Scott. So the band had already got that sound. We already had that sound. What
was the reasons for your departure from the band?
Well, it sort of varied really. We were all sort of friends when we first started, and by the time I split with the band, we were on to our third bass player and third drummer. And the first two guys I got on great with, Colin, I still do to this day, and Larry. And then we had two other guys, Noel Taylor and Neil Smith, the second bass player we had. Got on great with those boys. By the time we had a third bass player and drummer, they were strangers to me. They were from Victoria anyway, South Australia, which is different to New South Wales. But then we also had a third manager, who seemed to be doing quite all right for himself. He was flying around the country, getting his hair permed, buying new clothes, and we were starving. We'd done the biggest shows in Australia, the Sydney Opera House and Port Pavilion, and had a hit record on our hands. We were doing Australian tour, and we were starving. We were pooling our money together just to buy hamburgers, and hadn't been paid for weeks and all that kind of stuff. So I confronted him one night in Adelaide, and it came to blows there. So I wouldn't smart mouth me, and that was pulled apart pretty quickly. So after doing that, I wasn't very popular with the manager either, and I quit that night.
The Molten Metal moment with the Roadie.